The year was 2247 when the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky. The massive vessel hung above New York City like a metal moon, its surface covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Millions of people stared upward in fear and wonder. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces around the world went on high alert. But in a secret bunker beneath Washington, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. Ambassador Patricia Cole stood before the Emergency Council of World Leaders. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. For 30 years, she had studied the possibility of alien contact. Now that moment had arrived, and she had a plan. They call themselves the Valanthi Collective, Patricia said, pointing to the intelligence reports on the screen. Our satellites have intercepted their communications. They are part of something called the Interstellar Concordat, a collection of alien species that have ruled this galaxy for millions of years. The president leaned forward. What do they want with us? They want to evaluate us, to decide if we are worthy of joining their community, or if we are too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she meant. Our intercepted communications tell us something important, Patricia continued. The Concordat has destroyed young species before. Many times, they see aggressive civilizations as threats. Species that show too much military power, too much ambition, too much independence, these species disappear. The Concordat calls it maintaining galactic peace. We would call it murder. Then what do you suggest? Asked the Chinese premier. Patricia took a deep breath. We hide. We show them exactly what they want to see. A primitive world. A weak species. A people too simple to ever threaten anyone. The debate lasted for hours, but in the end, the world's leaders agreed. Humanity would wear a mask. They would play the role of the galaxy's most harmless species. They would smile and bow and apologize, all while watching, learning, and preparing for the day when the mask would no longer be needed. Commander Daniel Price led the first human delegation to meet the Valanthi. He was a decorated naval officer, a man who had commanded aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines. But when he walked onto the alien station at Nexus Prime, he shuffled his feet nervously. He spoke in a quiet voice. He apologized for his poor understanding of galactic customs. The Valanthi observers watched him with their large, dark eyes. They were tall creatures with silver skin and long fingers that moved constantly as they spoke. Their leader, a being called High Minister Sarath, looked down at the human delegation with obvious condescension. Your species is very young, Sarath said. You have much to learn. Yes, High Minister, Daniel replied, bowing his head. We are grateful for any wisdom you might share with us. Behind his humble expression, Daniel was memorizing everything. The layout of the station, the weapons carried by the guards, the locations of surveillance equipment. Every detail would be transmitted back to Earth in encrypted messages that the Concordat systems could not detect. Over the next 50 years, humanity perfected their performance. Human colonies spread to a dozen worlds, all of them marginal planets that other species had rejected. Human ships traveled the trade routes carrying cargo for alien merchants who barely noticed them. Human diplomats attended Concordat assemblies, sitting quietly in the back and voting with whatever majority seemed least controversial. The other species found humans amusing in a pathetic sort of way. The Kreth Dominion, a warrior race with scales like armor and teeth like daggers, laughed at human attempts at military display. The ancient Sethrani Empire, whose members resembled tall insects with compound eyes and delicate wings, considered humans to be primitive but harmless. Even the Valanthi, who had made first contact, soon forgot about the quiet little species from the unremarkable planet called Earth. This was exactly what humanity wanted. Behind the mask, everything was different. Earth's population, officially reported as 8 billion, had actually grown to 35 billion. Most of these people lived in vast underground cities or in hidden space stations scattered throughout the solar system. Human scientists worked in secret laboratories, studying every piece of alien technology they could acquire. Human factories, hidden beneath mountains and ocean floors, produced weapons and ships that would have shocked the galaxy. Patricia Cole's granddaughter, Linda, became the next great ambassador of humanity's deception. She had inherited her grandmother's intelligence and her talent for lying with a sincere smile. When she addressed the Concordat assembly, her voice trembled with carefully practiced nervousness. When elder species lectured her about human inadequacy, she nodded eagerly and thanked them for their guidance. At night, alone in her quarters, Linda wrote detailed reports about everything she observed. The political rivalries between Concordat species, the military weaknesses of each power, the hidden tensions that threatened to tear the galactic community apart. All of this information flowed back to Earth, where analysts added it to the growing database of galactic intelligence. The years became decades. The decades became centuries. Generation after generation of humans played their assigned roles. Children grew up learning two histories, the fake one they would share with aliens, and the real one that remained secret. Young men and women joined either the official Human Defense Force, a small collection of outdated ships that couldn't threaten anyone, or the hidden true military that grew stronger with each passing year. Not everyone agreed with the deception. Some argued that humanity should reveal its strength and demand respect. Others worried that the lie had gone on too long, that humans were losing their true identity behind the mask they wore. But the leadership held firm. The Concordat was too powerful. The risk was too great. The masquerade had to continue. Ambassador Linda Cole, now old and gray like her grandmother before her, gave her final briefing to her successor. Her daughter, Patricia II, would continue the family tradition. Remember, Linda said, her voice weak, but her eyes still sharp. They think we are nothing. They think we are beneath their notice. That is our greatest weapon. Let them laugh at us. Let them ignore us. Let them believe we are too stupid to ever be a threat. And when do we stop pretending? Patricia asked. Linda smiled, an expression that held 3 centuries of hidden anger and patient determination. When we are ready, when we are strong enough to face them all, when the galaxy learns that humanity was never weak, never primitive, never harmless, we were simply waiting. She took her daughter's hand. That day will come. Perhaps not in my lifetime. Perhaps not in yours. But it will come. And when it does, the galaxy will understand that the most dangerous predator is the one that knows how to hide. Outside the window, human cargo ships drifted through space, carrying goods between alien worlds. Their crews smiled and bowed to every species they met. Their captains apologized for any inconvenience their primitive vessels might cause, and deep in their hidden holds, secure databanks recorded everything: the ship movements, the communication frequencies, the patrol patterns of alien fleets. Every journey added another piece to the puzzle. Every mission brought humanity one step closer to the day when the masks would finally come off. The masquerade continued, and humanity waited. Captain Nathan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Constellation and stared at the dead world below. The planet had once been green and blue, covered with oceans and forests. Now it was nothing but gray rock and black glass, the surface burned clean of all life. "The records say this system doesn't exist," said Lieutenant Marie Santos, his science officer. She was young, barely 30 years old, but brilliant enough to earn her place on one of humanity's most secret missions. "There's no mention of it in any Concordat database." Nathan nodded slowly. "That's because they don't want anyone to know what happened here." The Constellation was officially listed as a research vessel, one of many small human ships conducting boring scientific surveys on the edges of known space. In reality, she was a ghost ship, equipped with technology that the Concordat didn't know humans possessed. Her mission was to explore the places that had been erased from galactic maps, to find the secrets that the elder species had buried. "I'm picking up residual energy signatures," Marie reported. "Sethrani weapons. Military grade. This planet was bombarded from orbit approximately 32,000 years ago. Any signs of who lived here?" Marie worked her console for several minutes. Based on the archaeological remains, this was a civilization roughly equivalent to Earth's 20th century. They had just developed radio technology, They were probably 50 years away from their first space flight. Nathan felt a cold anger building in his chest. So the Sethrani found a young species, one that hadn't even left their home world yet, and they burned them to ash. Yes, Captain. And then they deleted all records of this system's existence. This was why humanity explored the dark places. For 2 centuries, human ships had been mapping the forgotten corners of the galaxy. They searched the regions that older species avoided, the systems marked with warnings. The coordinates that led to empty space on official charts, but showed something very different on human sensors. What they found was horrifying. The Concordat presented itself as a peaceful community of advanced civilizations. Wise elders guiding younger species toward enlightenment. The truth was far darker. The elder species had built their empires on mountains of corpses. They had murdered hundreds of young civilizations, erasing them from history so completely that no one remembered they had ever existed. Nathan transmitted his findings back to Earth through encrypted channels. His report joined thousands of others in the archives of human intelligence. Each one told a similar story. Each one revealed another crime that the Concordat had hidden. Dr. Samuel Foster was the man responsible for making sense of it all. He led the Xenarchaeology department at the secret research facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. His team analyzed every artifact, every energy signature, every fragment of evidence that the exploration ships brought home. The pattern is clear, Samuel explained to the Oversight Committee. He was a small man with thick glasses and nervous habits, but his mind was sharper than anyone else's in his field. The Concordat species don't cooperate out of goodwill. They cooperate because they've eliminated every potential rival. Any species that shows too much promise, too much ambition, too much potential for growth, they destroy it before it can become a threat. She was the commander of humanity's hidden military forces, a woman who had spent her entire career preparing for a war that might never come. And humanity. Have they considered destroying us? Samuel pulled up another file. We found evidence of Sethrani observation posts in Earth's solar system dating back over 4,000 years. They've been watching us since before we invented writing. According to the records we've recovered, the Concordat has debated human extinction twice. The room fell silent. The first debate occurred during what we call the Industrial Revolution, Samuel continued. The Sethrani argued that humanity's rapid technological development was a warning sign. They recommended immediate sterilization of our species. What stopped them? Murphy asked. The Valanthia disagreed. They believed humans were developing too slowly to ever pose a real threat. The vote was close, but the Sethrani lost. In the second debate, after we deployed the first nuclear weapons, the Sethrani insisted that any species capable of developing weapons of mass destruction would inevitably become dangerous. They demanded immediate action. Murphy leaned forward. But obviously they didn't destroy us. No, the Kreth Dominion and several smaller species voted against it. They believed that humanity would destroy itself without outside intervention. They saw no need to waste resources on a species that would probably burn itself to extinction within a few centuries. Humanity had survived not because the galaxy considered them worthy of life, but because they considered humans too pathetic to bother killing Nathan Brooks. And his crew continued their exploration for another decade. They mapped over 300 dead worlds, civilizations that had been murdered before they could reach the stars. They found the remains of species that had been enslaved, worked to death, and then forgotten. They discovered evidence of experiments conducted on living populations, genetic modifications, and psychological programming. Designed to create perfect servants for the elder races, the worst discovery came in a system at the far edge of the galaxy. There, hidden in an asteroid field, Nathan found a facility that the Sethrani had used for something they called selection processing. Young species that seemed promising but potentially dangerous were brought to this facility. Their leaders were studied, their psychology analyzed, their society evaluated. Those deemed suitable were given limited membership in the Concordat, allowed to exist as long as they remained properly submissive. Those deemed unsuitable were terminated, their homeworlds sterilized, their entire history erased. They were considering us for selection processing, Marie said as they reviewed the records. About 200 years ago. The Setharani wanted to bring human leaders here for evaluation. What happened? The Valanthi convinced them it wasn't necessary. They said humanity was clearly too primitive to require selection processing. They recommended continued observation instead. Nathan laughed, but there was no humor in it. They thought we were so pathetic that we weren't even worth evaluating properly. Yes, Captain. He looked at the ancient facility, its metal walls still gleaming after thousands of years. Send everything back to Earth. Every file, every record, every piece of evidence. Our people need to see exactly what kind of galaxy we're living in. The transmission took several hours. When it was complete, Nathan ordered the constellation to leave the system. Behind them, the facility continued its silent wait, ready to process the next young species that the Concordat deemed worthy of evaluation on Earth. The evidence was reviewed by the highest levels of human leadership. It confirmed what many had suspected, but few had wanted to believe. The Concordat was not a community of equals. It was a system of control, maintained by species that had murdered their way to dominance and would continue murdering anyone who threatened their position. General Murphy summarized the situation in her report to the Council. We cannot trust them. We cannot negotiate with them. We cannot reveal our true capabilities and expect them to accept us as equals. They would see our strength as a threat and respond the way they have always responded. Then what do we do? Asked the Council Chairman. Murphy's answer was simple. We continue hiding. We continue preparing. And when we finally reveal ourselves, we make certain that we are too strong for them to destroy. The Watchers in the Dark had learned the truth about the galaxy. Now they understood exactly what humanity faced. The masquerade had to continue, not because humans were weak, but because revealing their strength too soon would mean annihilation. And so the secret ships continued their missions, mapping the galaxy's hidden places, counting the graves of murdered civilizations, and gathering the evidence that would one day expose the Concordat's crimes to the universe. The war between the Kreth Dominion and the Vorthon, hegemony, had raged for 30 years. Millions had died on dozens of worlds. Entire star systems had been reduced to rubble. The Concordat officially remained neutral, but everyone knew that the elder species were profiting from the destruction. Humanity saw opportunity. Captain Grace Palmer commanded the relief ship Mercy, officially delivering medical supplies to refugee camps on worlds devastated by the fighting. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice, exactly the sort of person that alien species expected humans to be. She smiled at everyone, apologized frequently, and seemed genuinely distressed by the suffering she witnessed. No one suspected that her ship carried hidden sensor equipment capable of mapping every military installation within range. No one noticed that her crew included intelligence officers who spoke perfect Kreth and Vorthon. No one realized that every journey through the war zone added another layer of detail to humanity's understanding of galactic military capabilities. The Kreth are losing, Grace reported during her encrypted transmission to Earth. Their fleet has been reduced by 40%. Their industrial capacity is nearly exhausted. Within 5 years, they will be forced to surrender. And the Vorthon, asked her handler, weakened but victorious. They've already begun negotiating with the Setharani for post-war territorial arrangements. This information was exactly what humanity needed. The war had exposed the military strengths and weaknesses of two major Concordat powers. Human analysts could now calculate force projections with much greater accuracy. Meanwhile, Ambassador Patricia Cole II continued her grandmother's work at the Concordat Assembly. She delivered passionate speeches calling for peace, her voice trembling with emotion that seemed completely genuine. The elder species found her naive idealism amusing but harmless. The humans are so earnest, remarked the Setharani observer to his Valanthi colleague. They truly believe that words can end wars. Let them have their illusions, the Valanthi replied. It keeps them busy and out of the way. Patricia heard their conversation through the hidden microphone in her ceremonial jewelry. She filed the information away, maintaining her expression of hopeful determination while internally adding another entry to her list of species that would face judgment. When the time came, the intelligence she gathered was transmitted to Earth through diplomatic pouches that the Concordat considered too unimportant to inspect. Human message traffic was so boring, so full of mundane requests and humble inquiries, that no one bothered to examine it closely. This was precisely what the encryption specialists had intended. Admiral Jill. Christopher Taylor reviewed the latest reports in the command center hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. He was an old man now, his hair white and his face lined with age, but his mind remained sharp. For 40 years, he had commanded humanity's secret fleet. Now that fleet was nearly ready. Current strength assessment, he announced to his staff. The Concordat powers combined can field approximately 40 million warships. The Sethrani alone maintain a reserve fleet of 2 million vessels. The numbers were staggering. Even after 3 centuries of hidden preparation, humanity could not match such force directly. Our official forces, Taylor continued, consist of 1,200 Vs. Cells mostly light patrol craft and cargo haulers. Nothing that could threaten a proper military power. He paused, allowing a small smile to cross his weathered face. Our actual forces consist of 18,000 capital ships, 90,000 support vessels, and production capacity sufficient to triple those numbers within 5 years. The room stirred with quiet satisfaction. Humanity had built an armada in secret, hiding their shipyards in asteroid fields, concealing their factories beneath the surfaces of supposedly barren moons, dispersing their fleet across hundreds of hidden bases throughout the galaxy, but numbers alone would not determine victory. Technology assessment, Taylor said. The Valenthi developed their quantum drive systems over a period of 8 centuries. Our scientists reverse-engineered and improved their design in 47 years. Our current drives are 60% more efficient and capable of speeds the Valanthia cannot match. He pulled up another display. Weapons systems. Based on captured Kreth technology, enhanced with human innovations, our primary batteries exceed the output of equivalent Kreth weapons by a factor of 3. Our shields can absorb damage that would destroy any known alien vessel. The technological advantage was humanity's greatest secret. The primitive species that could barely build functional starships had actually surpassed the galaxy's ancient civilizations in almost every meaningful measure. The mask of incompetence had hidden a revolution in military capability. Dr. Elizabeth Grant led the team responsible for the most dangerous human innovation. She was a physicist who had devoted her life to developing weapons that did not officially exist. Her latest creation was codenamed Prometheus. The Concordat species rely on energy shields for defense, Elizabeth explained to the Oversight Committee. Their shields have been refined over millions of years. They believe no weapon can penetrate them. She activated a holographic display showing the test results. Prometheus generates a cascading resonance field that destabilizes shield generators at the molecular level. In our tests, we achieved complete shield collapse in less than 3 seconds. General Murphy studied the data carefully. How do we know this will work against actual alien shields? We've tested it against captured Sethrani equipment. We've tested it against salvaged Kreth generators. We've tested it against every shield technology we could acquire. Elizabeth's voice carried absolute confidence. When we deploy Prometheus, the enemy's primary defense will simply cease to exist. The weapon represented humanity's answer to the impossible odds they faced. They could not outfight 40 million ships, but they could outthink their enemies. They could develop technologies that changed the fundamental rules of warfare. Meanwhile, the preparations continued on every front. Human agents had infiltrated the service industries of dozens of alien worlds. They worked as cleaners, as cargo handlers, as maintenance technicians, the kinds of jobs that no one paid attention to. From these positions, they gathered intelligence that no spy satellite could provide. They learned the layouts of military bases, the schedules of fleet movements, the personal habits of senior commanders. Human scientists developed biological enhancements that allowed their soldiers to operate in environments that would kill unmodified humans. They created communication systems that the Concordat could not detect or decrypt. They designed autonomous weapons platforms that could be deployed in seconds and operate for years without maintenance. human diplomats continued their performance of weakness, all while building relationships with the marginalized species of the galaxy. The races that the Concordat considered too primitive for full membership, the species that had been conquered and forced into subservience, the civilizations that survived only because they posed no threat to the elder powers. These would become humanity's allies when the time came. Admiral Taylor concluded his briefing with a sobering assessment. We are not yet ready for direct confrontation. We need another decade, perhaps two, to reach full capability. Will we have that time? Asked General Murphy. Taylor's expression darkened. Unknown. The Sethrani have begun showing unusual interest in human activities. Their surveillance of Earth has increased significantly over the past year. They may suspect something. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. 3 centuries of preparation could be destroyed if the masquerade failed before humanity was ready. We continue as planned, Murphy decided. We maintain the deception for as long as possible. We accelerate production where we can do so without detection. And we prepare contingency plans for early revelation. She looked at each face in the room. Seeing the determination that had driven humanity's secret effort for 300 years, the storm is gathering. One way or another, it will break soon. When it does, humanity will be ready. Outside the hidden command center, the Antarctic wind howled across the ice. Above, human ships continued their endless charade of primitivity. Below, in bases scattered across the galaxy, the true fleet waited for orders. The gathering storm approached, and humanity prepared for lightning. High Observer Velkathon had lived for 6,000 years. In that time, he had overseen the evaluation of 93 species. Some had been accepted into the Concordat as proper servants. Others had been eliminated. The process was always the same, efficient, thorough, and final, but the humans troubled him. He sat in his chamber aboard the observation station, orbiting Neptune, reviewing the anomalies that his subordinates had identified. The data did not make sense. Human population figures did not match their resource consumption. Their industrial output exceeded what their primitive technology should allow. Their presence near ancient sites that should have remained hidden, suggested knowledge they should not possess. They are hiding something, Velkathon said to his aide. For 3 centuries, we have watched them. For 3 centuries, they have appeared exactly as they should appear. But something is wrong. Perhaps we are being overly cautious, High Observer. The humans have never shown any sign of advanced capability. That is precisely what concerns me. Velkethan's compound eyes reflected the data on his screens. No species is so perfectly mediocre. Every other young race we have observed has shown variance, moments of brilliance, followed by periods of failure. The humans show neither. Their performance is too consistent, too controlled. He made his decision. We will conduct a compliance inspection. I will lead it personally. The Sethrani compliance fleet assembled at the edge of human space. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. They represented enough firepower to devastate any primitive civilization, more than sufficient for a routine inspection of a minor species. Velkathon transmitted the standard notification to Earth. The message was brief and cold. The Sethrani Empire will conduct a compliance inspection of human territories. Full cooperation is expected. Resistance will not be tolerated. The human response was appropriately submissive. Ambassador Patricia Cole II expressed gratitude for the Sethrani's attention and assured them that humanity would comply with all requests. Her voice trembled slightly, as if she were nervous about the approaching visitors. Velkathon felt a moment of doubt. Perhaps he was wrong. Perhaps the humans truly were as harmless as they appeared. The compliance fleet entered human space. Admiral D. Milt Jason Wright received the alert at Outpost 7. Humanity's primary military command center, hidden in the Oort cloud. The facility appeared on no charts. It existed in the space between stars. Invisible to any sensor technology, the Concordat possessed 300 Sethrani vessels, reported his flag captain, Commander Lisa Park. They'll reach Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours. Wright studied the tactical display. 3 centuries of preparation had led to this moment. Every plan, every weapon, every ship that humanity had built in secret was meant for exactly this situation, their stated purpose: compliance inspection. But their formation is aggressive. They're not configured for a friendly visit, right? Understood. The Sethrani had grown suspicious. This inspection would not end with polite observations and minor recommendations. They intended to install control systems throughout human space, to finally clamp down on the species that had somehow escaped proper management for too long. If humanity allowed that to happen, the masquerade would become permanent. Earth would be reduced to a properly supervised colony, its population controlled, its development directed, its future determined by alien masters that could not be permitted. Signal Earth. Right ordered. Authorization code: Prometheus. The masquerade ends tonight. The message flashed across human space at faster-than-light speeds. On 100 hidden bases, officers received the code they had trained for since childhood. The order they had always known might come. The time for hiding was over. The Sethrani elite emerged from quantum space expecting to find a primitive world defended by a handful of obsolete patrol craft. What they found instead made High Observer Velkathon's ancient heart stop. 3,000 human warships hung in perfect formation between the compliance fleet and Earth. They were massive vessels, their hulls gleaming with technology that should not have existed. Their weapons were charged, their targeting systems locked onto every Sethrani ship. "This is impossible," Velkethan whispered. "Our intelligence indicated. Your intelligence indicated what we wanted it to indicate." The voice came through on all frequencies. Admiral Wright's image appeared on every screen in the Sethrani fleet. "For 300 years, you watched us. For 300 years, we watched you back. We know what you are. We know what you've done. We have documented your crimes against hundreds of species. We have mapped your military capabilities. We have analyzed your weaknesses." Wright's expression showed no fear, no hesitation, no hint of the submissive species the Concordat had come to expect, "and we are not afraid." Velkathon's tactical officer was screaming, "High Observer, their weapon signatures are off our scales. Our shields cannot withstand that level of firepower. We must retreat." Retreat required time to charge quantum drives. The human fleet had positioned itself perfectly. Every escape route was blocked. "You have 2 choices," Wright continued. "You can surrender your vessels and accept internment until this matter can be resolved through diplomatic channels. Or you can fight." Velkathan's pride would not allow surrender. The Sethrani had never surrendered to a young species. They had never been defeated by primitives. He gave the order to attack. The battle lasted 11 minutes. The Prometheus weapons deployed exactly as designed. Sethrani shields, refined over millions of years to be impenetrable, collapsed within seconds of contact. Human weapons fire tore through unprotected holes with devastating precision. The ancient warships of the galaxy's dominant species came apart like paper in a hurricane. Velkathan watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. 247 Sethrani vessels became expanding clouds of debris. The remaining ships, their weapons destroyed and their engines disabled, drifted helplessly in space. Human casualties: 3 vessels damaged. 0 destroyed. Commander Park reported the final statistics with quiet satisfaction. "The Sethrani compliance fleet has been neutralized. Shall we accept their surrender?" "Yes." Wright turned to face the surviving Sethrani ships. "High Observer Velkathon, your vessels will be boarded and your crews detained. Any resistance will be met with immediate force." There was no resistance. The surviving Sethrani were too shocked to fight. 6,000 years of experience had not prepared Velkathon for this moment. The galaxy's proper order had been overturned in 11 minutes. On Earth, the news spread within hours. The mask had finally fallen. Humanity's true strength was revealed. Ambassador Patricia Cole II addressed the people of Earth from the steps of the United Nations building. Billions watched, both on the planet and on the hidden stations and colonies throughout human space. For 300 years, we pretended to be what the galaxy expected. We smiled when they insulted us. We bowed when they threatened us. We apologized for existing. Her voice rang with power that she had suppressed for her entire life. That time is over. Today, humanity stands revealed. We are not primitives. We are not servants. We are not victims waiting to be evaluated, controlled, or destroyed. We are the species that spent 3 centuries learning every secret the galaxy tried to hide. We are the species that built an armada in the shadows. We are the species that just defeated the most feared military power in known space in 11 minutes. She looked directly into the cameras, speaking to every human alive and to every alien species that was certainly watching. The Concordat thought they knew us. They were wrong. The galaxy thought they understood us. They were wrong. Everyone who looked at humanity and saw weakness was wrong. Her next words would echo across the stars. We are humanity. We have ceased hiding our true nature, and nothing in this galaxy will ever be the same. On the edges of Concordat space, alien observers transmitted frantic reports to their governments. A young species, a supposedly primitive civilization, had just done the impossible. The news would spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The revelation was complete. And humanity's true war was about to begin. The galaxy burned with the news. Within days, every species in the Concordat knew what had happened. The Sethrani Compliance Fleet, 300 of their finest warships, had been destroyed in 11 minutes by a species they had dismissed as primitive savages. The reactions varied. Some species celebrated secretly, finding joy in the humiliation of their ancient masters. Others trembled with fear, wondering what this new power would do next. The elder races gathered in emergency councils, debating responses that ranged from immediate retaliation to cautious diplomacy. Ambassador Tricia Cole II stood before the Concordat Assembly for the last time as a humble representative. But everything about her had changed. Her posture was straight. Her voice was strong, and her eyes held the confidence of a species that had finally stopped pretending. For 300 years, humanity pretended to be what you expected, she began. The assembly hall fell silent. We did this because we understood the truth you tried to hide. The Concordat is not a community of equals. It is a system of control designed by ancient predators to manage young species until you can decide whether to enslave them or exterminate them. The Kreth ambassador rose to protest, his scaled face twisted with anger. You cannot make such accusations without evidence. Patricia smiled. We have evidence. The displays throughout the assembly hall activated simultaneously. Images appeared, documents, recordings, archaeological data. The secret history of the galaxy spread before every delegate in the room. 17 species eliminated by the Kreth Dominion before you achieved your current civilized status. 43 worlds sterilized by Sethrani compliance fleets. Billions killed in Volanthi population control programs. These are not accusations. These are facts. The evidence was overwhelming. Human explorers had spent 2 centuries gathering proof of Concordat crimes. Every dead world, every erased civilization, every forgotten atrocity was documented with scientific precision. The elder species reacted with fury, shame, and fear. Some denied everything despite the evidence. Others sat in stunned silence, their crimes exposed before the entire galaxy. Patricia continued. Humanity offers the galaxy a choice. The old order ends today. Those species willing to embrace genuine cooperation, mutual respect, and transparent governance will find us to be faithful allies. Those who attempt to continue the old ways of domination and control will discover that humanity learned much during our centuries of observation. She paused, letting her words sink in. We learned how to hide. We learned how to watch. And we learned how to fight. Sethrani High Observer, Velkathon, present via holographic transmission from his detention cell, spoke with the authority of 6,000 years. You cannot dictate terms to the Concordat. You are one species against the combined might of 100 civilizations. Tricia turned to face his image. One species that just destroyed your compliance fleet in 11 minutes. One species that has spent 3 centuries mapping your weaknesses. One species that has already begun transmitting our evidence files to every oppressed world and marginalized species in the galaxy. She leaned forward. How long do you think your power will last when your subjects learn the truth about their masters? The answer came faster than anyone expected. Within weeks of Patricia's speech, rebellions erupted on dozens of worlds. Species that had been forced into submission for millennia suddenly found hope in humanity's example. The evidence of Concordat crimes spread through underground networks, inspiring resistance movements that the elder races could not suppress. The Kreth Dominion attempted to restore order through force. Their fleet moved against a rebellion in the outer systems. Expecting easy victory over primitive subjects, Admiral Wright was waiting for them. The battle was larger than the confrontation at Earth, but the result was the same. Human technology, combined with the element of surprise and superior tactics, overwhelmed the Kreth forces. The rebellion succeeded, and another crack appeared in the Concordat's foundation. More species joined humanity's cause. The marginalized, the oppressed, the forgotten races that had survived only because they posed no threat began to organize. Human diplomats, no longer hiding behind masks of weakness, offered alliances based on genuine equality. Human ships carried weapons and supplies to resistance movements across the galaxy. General Catherine Murphy, now over 100 years old and sustained by medical technology that humanity had hidden for centuries, watched the unfolding events from Earth's new command center. She had devoted her entire life to preparing for this moment. Now she watched it unfold better than she had dared to hope. The Volanthia requested diplomatic talks reported her aid. They're willing to discuss restructuring the Concordat along more equitable lines. Murphy nodded. They see which way the wind is blowing. The smart ones always adapt when the situation changes. And the Sethrani? Still refusing to negotiate. They're gathering their reserve fleets for a major offensive. Murphy studied the tactical display. They think they can crush us with pure numbers. The Sethrani plan was simple but massive. They would combine their forces with willing Concordat allies and launch an overwhelming attack against human space. Even with human technological advantages, they believed that sheer weight of numbers would prevail. They were wrong. The combined Liberation Fleet met the Sethrani Armada at the Battle of the Nexus, the largest engagement in galactic history. Admiral Wright commanded from the flagship Constitution, coordinating human forces with ships from 37 allied species. The battle lasted 3 days. Human weapons carved through Sethrani shields. Allied vessels exploited weaknesses that human intelligence had identified centuries earlier. The ancient tactics of the elder races, unchanged for millions of years, proved worthless against enemies who had studied every detail of their military doctrine. When the fighting ended, the Sethrani Empire as a military power had ceased to exist. Their remaining forces scattered, their leadership captured or destroyed. The species that had dominated the galaxy for longer than humanity had possessed language was broken. In the aftermath, the galaxy reorganized itself along lines that Patricia Cole had proposed. The new Galactic Assembly was based on genuine representation, with every species receiving voice, regardless of age or power. The secret monitoring stations were dismantled. The compliance fleets were disbanded. The selection processing facilities were destroyed. General Murphy gave the dedication speech at the Monument to the Masquerade, a structure built on Earth to commemorate the 3 centuries of hidden preparation. She stood before a crowd of humans and aliens, representatives of the new order that had risen from the ashes of the old. We spent 3 centuries hiding who we truly were, she said. We did this not from shame, but from wisdom. The galaxy was ruled by those who destroyed anything they could not control. Against such powers, deception was our only defense. She looked out at the faces before her. The humans who had maintained the mask, and the aliens who had suffered under the old order. But the time for hiding has ended. Today, humanity stands revealed. We are dreamers and warriors, builders and destroyers. We are stubborn, passionate, and relentless. We refuse to be contained, controlled, or eliminated. Above them, Ships from 100 worlds traced patterns of light across the sky. Human vessels flew alongside craft from species that had been enemies a year before. The display would have been unimaginable before the revelation. We will spend the next 3 centuries proving that the galaxy is better with us in it than without us, Murphy continued. We will help rebuild what was destroyed. We will welcome those who were oppressed. We will create a community based on genuine cooperation rather than fear. She paused, her old eyes bright with unshed tears. For 300 years we hid our true nature. Now the galaxy sees us as we truly are. And I believe that what they see is worthy of the universe. The crowd roared its approval. Humans and aliens together, united for the first time in genuine partnership. Patricia Cole II stood beside her grandmother's statue, placed at the monument center. The first Ambassador Cole had begun the masquerade 3 centuries ago. Her descendant had ended it. The family's work was complete. We did it, grandmother, Patricia whispered. We showed them who we really are. Around her, the celebration continued. The new galactic order was fragile, uncertain, and full of challenges that would take generations to overcome. But for the first time in recorded history, that order was based on truth rather than lies, on cooperation rather than control. Humanity had ceased hiding their true nature. The masks were gone. The pretense was over, and the galaxy, finally seeing humanity clearly, discovered that what they had feared was actually their greatest hope. The story of human deception was over. The story of human leadership was just beginning.